Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, we have another draft profile. Ben Jordan joins us to talk about Riley Heidt. So we're talking about Heidt, who may or may not be there for the Sharks, why he's such an intriguing prospect. And we talk about the kind of difference between the OHL and the WHL and why the WHL is just becoming a better league than the OHL. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. That way you know exactly when the episodes are out. And have Ben Jordan on from Smaht Scouting. Makes his first appearance on Locked on Sharks. Great conversation with him. We talk about Riley Heidt. We talk about kind of his strengths, weaknesses, why he would be a great fit for the Sharks. And then we have a big conversation about the OHL versus the WHL as he kind of covers both for Smaht Scouting and kind of why we're seeing such a huge talent increase from the WHL. So really fun conversation. Before we do get into that, do want you to know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And now we bring in Ben Jordan of Smaht Scouting, making his debut on Locked on Sharks. How's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going well. Always a treat to come on and talk hockey. So I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. So we're going to be getting into one Riley Heidt. You did a profile of him on Smaht Scouting. If you have not heard of Riley Heidt, here's a good way to kind of get introduced to him. He's a forward, Prince George of the WHL, 5'11", 179 pounds. This year has played in 68 regular season games, 25 goals, 72 assists, 170 shots on goal. He was the second pick after Bedard in the WHL draft a couple years ago. And to talk more about and why he is such an intriguing prospect, Ben, let's start there. Why is he such an intriguing prospect to you?
Yeah, I think the first thing that kind of pops out when you watch Riley Heidt is just his skating and playmaking combo. A lot of guys, especially at the junior level, you see like really good straight line speed, really good vision, really good passing, maybe a really good shot. But he kind of has a really unique combo of the skating and playmaking, and he's able to make the plays at a super high level. I think that's one thing that I touched on a lot in the report is just his ability with the puck to see open spaces and lead his teammates into those areas is something that I've been really, really impressed with.
I mean, yeah, you look at those numbers, right? 25 goals on 170 shots. That's a pretty good shooting percentage right there. Is that based on his shots outstanding, or is he getting easy looks, or kind of why do you think the production for not a lot of shots?
Yeah, I'll start off. He's on a really good line this year. Dallas actually just signed Chase Wheatcroft, and then another 2023 eligible on the wing in Cohen Zemer. So he's got a great line, great supporting cast, and he's gotten a lot of looks on the power play. His shot is one of those things that kind of maybe is overlooked a bit because of what I just talked about, but I think he's got an NHL caliber one-timer already. He kind of just loads up on that off wing, and he scored a bunch of goals that way, and he's not afraid to get to the dirty areas in the crease. There's a lot of give and go plays that he starts and ends up on the receiving end, finishing in tight in and around the crease. So I think those are kind of two areas that I'd attribute to a lot of his success in the goal scoring category.
All right, and you in your article you talked about how kind of a smart player he is and his passing and stuff. We've seen the Sharks really kind of focus on those hockey IQ players with Thomas Bordeleau and William Eklund. Where does he kind of what type of hockey IQ? I'm assuming it's kind of off the charts if based off your report on him.
Yeah, I would classify it in the off the charts category, personally. And like you said, in terms of just kind of his build and his play style, he's right in line with those guys. So I would say that he fits the mold of what the Sharks had been looking at. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Doug Wilson Jr. is out.
He is no longer with. Yeah, he did leave
director
after
of
last
amateur
year's draft.
scouting. So
Yeah.
So we'll see kind of maybe with Mike Greer now in place, kind of full year under his belt, and Doug Wilson Jr. out. We'll see kind of if their direction changes at all. But he definitely falls in line with what they've been looking at in the past.
Yeah, my thing, like a lot of people are like, oh, Mike Greer just wants big guys. It's like, no, he wants guys who are skilled at hockey, and he wants guys who play up to their size, right? Because we've seen plenty of guys who are like 6'4", but they play like 5'6" guys, and you see plenty of guys who are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", who play like much bigger. I think that's kind of a big misconception with Greer, is like he just wants big guys who hit and do things. It's like, no, I think he just wants guys who play up to or bigger than they actually are. And so you talked about, with height, he's not the biggest guy, right? He's 5'11", but you said he's not afraid to kind of mix it up and get into those dirty areas and get those prime scoring chances, right?
Yeah. I'd say for people that watch a lot of NHL hockey out there, he has the ability to get to the net and the will to get to the net, kind of like Bo Horvat does, where he can kind of get lost in the shuffle in front, find a soft spot. If there's a play behind the net, he can kind of get that 2-foot pass and bury it. But he's also not afraid to get in there and try and create space for himself. And he's put in a couple dirty goals this year. I mean, for all the skill that he has, not everything is beautiful. And just kind of touching on what you said, like if Riley Heidt, if he took all the exact same skills and everything, but he was 6'3", like I wish.
We'd be talking about it up there with Bedard right there.
Everyone wants big guys if they come with that skill set, but that's not often the case.
All right, guys, before we continue conversation with Ben Jordan, we discuss, again, kind of where Heidt would kind of fit in with the Sharks, what he needs to work on to, as he continues to be his pro career. And then we talk about the OHL versus WHL. Do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at Gametime. Right now, you guys know how annoying buying tickets can be. And right now is the best time of year to get tickets because there's so many fun events going on, right? You have NBA playoffs, you have NHL playoffs for teams not located in San Jose, baseball starting, it's concert season over the summer. Gametime is the best and easiest way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Gametime guarantee means that you'll get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy. That way you know exactly what it's going to look like when you get there. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. So snag the tickets without stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so what do you think is his one skill that's going to be the most NHL translatable for him?
Yeah, I think right now, honestly, it's probably his shot. But I think in the long term, it'll just be the way that he can see the play. He can speed it up and slow it down. And a big thing for young players, coming into the league is being able to kind of just slow the game down and process it at a rate. And that's something that he's going to have no trouble with. And he'll fit right in that sense.
All right. And then, of course, right, what is the thing that you think is going to either hold him back? What do you think is that thing that he needs to work on the most as he kind of transitions out of juniors? I assume he'll have to play AHL games and become an impact NHL player.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. One thing that stood out for me in a lot of the viewings, and I'm not too sure how much of this can be attributed to him just being young and in junior still, but a lot of the time, and I've noticed it mainly in games that are a blowout on either side of the ledger, whether they're up big or down big, he gets disengaged quite easily. So that kind of ties in with what I think his biggest holdback will be, which is just play off the puck.
Mhm.
It's so important in the NHL. The game moves so quickly. You need to free up space. Play off the puck is super important. And I think right now it's not even that he lacks the ability, it's that he lacks the will at times, I feel. And he can become disconnected from the game for multiple shifts at a time, sometimes even periods. Recently, I think they were up 7-1. I can't remember who it was against. They were up big heading into the third, and it was like I at the end of the game was like, did he even play in the third? Like, is he hurt? like you really miss the explosiveness and kind of his will to just keep the foot on the gas. So I think that's something that I'm sure a little bit can be attributed to just being younger. And once he gets drafted and into a development camp this summer, that's going to be something where that just gets drilled home that, we're in the pros, you don't stop playing.
Yeah.
So that's an area of concern, I'd say, right now for me.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's young and
Yeah.
he just turned 18 last month. And again, I mean, we've all been there with 7-1 games, even watching a 7-1 game where you're just like, okay, like let's speed it up. We got other things to do here. So that's understandable, not something you want to see, but that's understandable for a 17, 18-year-old kid to be like, we're coasting. We have bigger things that we got to worry about, especially if you're going into the playoffs and stuff like that. So,
yeah, exactly. And making sure you're not hurt.
And kind of saving the body a little bit there.
Biggest things.
Yeah. All right. So, you talked about that there. I know he's going to have to build up. Every 17, 18-year-old kid is going to kind of build up. If he hits his kind of ceiling, what type of player would the Sharks or whoever drafts him get? What is his kind of tapped out ceiling? What's his most likely role?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is just, like you mentioned, filling out his frame and putting on some muscle. I think that in and of itself will allow him to play center at the National Hockey League level. So that would be the first thing I'd say. And then reaching his full potential offensively. I mean, we're talking about a dynamic top six centerman. Like I kind of mentioned Bo Horvat earlier. I see a lot of similarities in the nuances in the way that they see the game and handle the puck and understand space and where their teammates are going to be. So I think you're looking at a dynamic top six centerman somewhere in the 75 to 85 point range at his tapped out potential.
That's not too bad in the late first round, getting a guy who's 75 to 85 points. I mean, I would thoroughly enjoy that in San Jose at some point. So if he doesn't hit that ceiling, what type of player is he? Kind of just going to be like a solid middle six guy, maybe like a souped up third line guy? Like if you're on a championship caliber team and he's your third line center, you're feeling really good about yourself?
Yeah, I think at it, if he doesn't I think one of the biggest thing is just finding that consistency with the play off the puck and on the puck. And if he doesn't quite hit that ceiling, or honestly, maybe doesn't find himself in quite the right situation on draft day and comes through in not quite the right situation, I think definitely a souped up third line center. He's got all the characteristics to, play a great 200-foot game. He's been on the penalty kill this year. He's done a great job. Maybe looking a bit more in the scope of like an Anthony Cirelli type with a little bit more offensive upside and a little less kind of warrior mentality. I'll put it like that. Just a little less hungry for the grit and grime, but a little more offensive flair maybe. But someone in that kind of role where they're a really important piece of a championship team. We've seen that with Cirelli in the 3 cup finals that they've been to. So I think kind of in there.
All right. What's his timeline, right? He's got a couple years in juniors. You would expect probably a year or two in the AHL before he kind of starts to make an impact in the NHL.
Yeah, I've always been a proponent for just letting development cook. For sure next year in Prince George, fill out his body. He was a point shy of 100 this year, hit the century mark. He's going to tear up the WHL next year. And then kind of go from there. I mean, ultimately, it'll depend on the team, and a lot of teams think differently. Some may keep him another year in junior. Some may bring him to the AHL. Personally, I would put it like this. I would keep him in junior probably 2 more years, and then bring him to the AHL for a year, as opposed to the one in junior and then 2 in the AHL. I think just letting him dominate is a big thing. But for whatever team will bring him to the AHL, I think it's super crucial that they just get him minutes. Wherever he is, he just needs to get minutes. Skill guys like this, they just need to play, and they need to really hone in on the consistency aspect. So just emphasis on playing.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that. I mean, the Sharks' own backyard, right? Ozzy Weisblatt was their first round pick, 2020 draft, and he played 2 years in juniors, and then this year it took him half the season, right, before he was even getting regular ice time with the Barracuda. I know the Barracuda team had some talent on there between Bordelot and Robbins and some of the veteran guys that got on there, but I mean, you're finally seeing now at the end of the season where Ozzy Weisblatt's been kind of able to start to put it together. So I know these guys are a little bit different. I think Heidt's a little bit more skilled than Ozzy is. Ozzy, I think, is probably a little bit has plenty of speed, but has a little bit more kind of grit to his game, which is, I think, kind of lends itself to the AHL a little bit more than a guy like Heidt. But I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and especially for a team like the Sharks who aren't going to be good anytime soon. I'm trying to be nice, but we're not going to be good. We suck. We stink. We know that. As Sharks fans, we know that. But letting him kind of slow cook, and then all of a sudden you're pairing him with Bordelot, who's got a couple years under his belt. Ekman's got a couple years under his belt. B-Set will be coming over probably around the same time. Hopefully you get a Fantilli or Bedard in this draft, and then it's like, okay, you've got some pieces here to work with, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, big proponent of letting guys cook. There's no such thing as overdeveloping, and letting guys dominate is. If you look at the track record, the odds are so much more in your favor. And like you said, for a team like the Sharks, where there's no real urgency to get them in there and producing, just take it slow.
Oh, I know, but you want your new toys now.
Yeah, you do. It's like Christmas morning.
Yes, that's, again, this is all we have right now as Sharks fans. This is it. So with that and Erik Karlsson scoring 100 points, that's all we got right now. So, all right, guys, before we finish up with Ben, we talked about the WHL versus OHL, figure out where he thinks Heidt is going to go. Bunch of fun stuff to talk about with him. Before we do that, do want to let you guys know about the Locked On Game to Game. So thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Your second listen, go check out the Locked On Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Especially we got playoffs coming up. You want to know exactly what happened the night before. Locked On has got you covered. So follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Okay, let's talk some kind of other draft stuff here. So you cover both the WHL and you do the OHL as well. You actually work for the OHL Rangers. I see, that's pretty cool. Why this year we see a lot of the top tier talent is in the WHL? Is this a trend, or is this a cyclical thing, or why do you think the WHL kind of just has more talent this year in this draft compared to other years?
Yeah, I think, well, the first thing is that I really think that the WHL has a bit of an advantage in the sense that the pool of players is just so much bigger. Like covering the scope of BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and even down in Washington and surrounding areas in the States for players coming in. They have a lot more toys to pick from ultimately. And I've kind of, ever since I've started following the draft and prospects and really getting into that whole thing in 2017, I've always thought that the WHL has just been generally a bit stronger. Now, this year, I think, is a bit of an outlier in the sense that the first round is going to be dominated by WHL players, and we maybe see a couple OHL guys sprinkled in there. So for
the OHL, right, you got guys like so Colby Barlow was probably going to be the first OHL guy picked, right? You've got Richie.
Richie, and then Quentin Musty and Sudbury.
And then Riley Heidt, Oliver Boink, up there too, but like first round guys, yeah,
a couple guys in London, a couple guys in Kitchener with Brustevich and Rakoff, and then Barkey also in London. So there's some guys around, but I think this year is a bit of an outlier in the sense that the WHL is just so much more dominant. But I do think that there's something to the size of the player base and just having more opportunities. And ultimately, when you have more to pick from, you're taking more higher skilled guys, higher upside guys that end up getting drafted higher. And I think the WHL has a bit of an advantage in that sense.
All right. So do you think this is going to be something that we're continues? Because it's a lot of times, like it's always kind of been like, oh, like the OHL, kind of then the WHL, then the Q we don't talk about as much. But like, do you see kind of a shift as the WHL is kind of taking the lead as the kind of premier CHL league?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I've kind of noticed that trend since 2017, and I do anticipate it to continue to this extent. Probably not.
Yeah, we're not going to have
I think
Connor Bedard.
This is a supreme outlier, especially with Bedard, and then you got other like we got Zach Benson, Riley Heidt, Nate Danielson. Like the list goes on and on and on with the high end talent. So I don't think we see any trend like this continue. And quite honestly, next year, looking at the defenseman class in the OHL, we're looking at something pretty special, I think, early on.
So next year, if you need a defenseman like the Sharks do, next year's the year to be terrible.
Yeah, there's 4 really good young defensemen in the OHL right now who I think have a chance at least early on, maybe in the first round. But we'll see continuing on. But I do think that there is going to continue to be a shift towards the WHL being just a little bit stronger in terms of not only, higher end draft picks coming from the WHL, but also just sheer volume of picks. So I don't see this outlier trend continuing. I think we might just have a one-off here, but I do think that.
All right. What's your favorite league between the three?
I would say probably the OHL, but that is a bit of a homer view. Being from Toronto, that was always the junior league I followed, and went to a bunch of Steelheads games as a kid. Oshawa Generals, all that, C. Tavares, and all those guys.
It's fine. I knew you were going to pick
and
that
now
one.
And now being with the Rangers, probably the OHL, but I do really enjoy the WHL, and it's great hockey there too.
All right, so we'll get you out of here with the 2 questions, the blood questions we ask everyone. You don't know this, but I took some of your blood to make sure that this is going to be put in blood, and set in stone. Where does one Riley Heidt get picked in this year's draft?
Yeah, I think ultimately on draft day he'll end up somewhere in the 15 to 20 range, and for the sake of having my blood drawn, I'm going to go with 18.
18, that's a good pick. Okay. According to Tankathon, let's see where they're at right now. As we're recording this, April 3rd, Tankathon, 18th pick would be the Penguins. That's all they need is just a high-end talent guy to go with. Yeah, that's exactly who they need. So. But that he would be easily their best prospect right away. So without
whoever
a doubt,
they take there will likely be their best prospect.
Probably. So, all right, and then 5 years from now, I'm still doing this podcast because I can't find anybody to replace me at Locked On. Who non-Bedard is the best player in this year's draft?
Yeah, I mean that's the one worth all the marbles, right? But you know what? I'm gonna stick to my roots in the OHL and WHL, and I'm gonna say Zach Benson. I think outside of the kind of Bedard, Fantilli, Michkovs, and I'd even stop the list there in terms of just like sheer offensive point upside at the next level. But I really think that Zach Benson could be something special. So I'm gonna go with Zach Benson for that one.
I like the Zag. Everyone else, most people say Fantilli. I've gotten Michkov a couple times. Zach Benson, I do like the Zach Benson one. That's really fun, especially if the Sharks continue to win a couple games here. Getting Zach Benson would not be the worst thing in the world for the Sharks.
Yeah, no, lots of consolation prizes this year. Absolutely.
I love me some Leo Carlson. I love me some Swedes, so I would be really happy with the Sharks hitting Leo Carlson. But again, I think if you're in the top 5, you're going to come away with somebody. You're going to be really happy with who you pick this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
All right, Ben, you've said it all. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me. You can find me on Twitter at BJordanNHL. I post tons of different clips and thoughts and everything hockey on there, and you can see a lot of my work on anything draft prospects on smahtscouting.com. So go check it out, covering all things WHL, OHL for the upcoming draft.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I'll have to have you back on again. And we'll catch you guys next time. All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening, joining for Ben Jordan. I thought he was great. Definitely going to have him back on the podcast to talk more prospects. So just as a reminder, I will no episodes Thursday or Friday this week. I will be on vacation. So just listen to this one like 60 times or something like that. I don't know. Or go catch up on the other draft prospect ones or something. There's plenty of other stuff to listen to. So that I've put out plenty of content. Make sure, though, you guys are following along. You follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can make sure you guys are following for free wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube as well. That way you know exactly when the newest episodes are available. Again, we'll be back on Monday to start answering the biggest questions the Sharks have heading into the offseason. So until Monday, bye, friends.